ever said something at work in Canada or the US that sounded completely correct in English, but the other person suddenly became uncomfortable? Maybe you said, "That won't work," or "Where is the report? You're late," or "I already sent you that email." Your English was correct, so what went wrong? The problem may not be your English. It may be how direct your communication sounds. Today, I'll show you 4 workplace situations where a direct sentence can sound much stronger than you intended and what to say instead. Stay with me if you're a newcomer in Canada or the US. Imagine that your supervisor or coworker suggests an idea that you think is unrealistic. You say, "That won't work," or "That's a bad idea." Is it grammatically correct? Absolutely. Is it necessarily rude? Not always, but in a Canadian workplace, depending on your tone and the relationship, it can sound very final or dismissive. It's like, "You're wrong," end of discussion. Softer and professional option, or a Canadian would say, "That's an interesting idea. Let's keep that in mind." Or if you want to explain your concern, you can say, "That's an interesting idea. Um, I'm just wondering if we might run into some challenges with it." What just happened? You didn't lie, you didn't agree, you simply disagreed without shutting the conversation down. That's an important distinction. Situation 2: a coworker asks you for something you already sent. You might say, "I already sent you this email on Monday." Again, completely understandable. But depending on your tone, the word "already" might make the sentence sound like you're blaming the other person. A more natural option would be, or a Canadian would say, "I sent it on Monday. Let me forward it to you again." Or in everyday workplace communication, "I sent that over on Monday. I'll send it again." Or simply, "I believe I sent it on Monday. Let me resend it for you." The last one is especially useful. You're given the information without making the other person feel stupid for missing it. Someone hasn't completed a task and you need an update. So you say, "Where is the report? You're late." This is very direct. In some cultures, this direct communication might be completely normal, but in a Canadian workplace, this sounds confrontational, especially when you're speaking to a colleague. Try, "Just wanted to check in on the report," or "Just wanted to check in on this." Or if you want a specific update, say, "I just wanted to check in on the report. Do you have any update on when it might be ready?" What happened? You're still asking for the report, you're addressing the delay, but you're creating space for the person to explain. And that's a very common feature of a Canadian workplace. Someone gives an opinion that you strongly disagree with. So you say, "You're wrong," or "I don't agree." Again, nothing grammatically wrong, but your "you're wrong" attacks the person's position very directly. A more professional approach would be to separate the person from the idea. Say, "I see it a little differently," or "I have a different perspective," or "I have a slightly different perspective." When appropriate, you can say, "I understand your point. My concern is." This is actually a very useful formula. Acknowledge, give different perspective, and explain. For example, "I see your point." You're acknowledging, yeah, "I see your point." Then you say, "But I have a slightly different perspective." And then you explain why. You say, "My concern is that this could affect our timeline." You're still disagreeing, but you're doing it without creating unnecessary conflict. Now I want to make something very clear. This doesn't mean that Canadians never speak directly. And it doesn't mean you need to become a different person. It also doesn't mean Canadian is polite and immigrants are rude. Absolutely not. Different cultures simply have different expectations around directness. In some cultures, being direct communicates honesty plus efficiency plus respect. You say exactly what you mean. In other workplace cultures, including many Canadian workplaces, people often place more emphasis on relationship plus tone plus collaboration. So instead of that won't work, you might hear, I'm not sure that would work. Instead of you're late, you might hear, just checking in on this. Instead of you're wrong, you might hear, I see it a little differently. The goal isn't to become less confident. The goal is to learn how to be direct without sounding unnecessarily confrontational. There are some birds in there. Oh, so cute. So, here is a simple formula you can remember. Don't remove the message, soften the delivery. You can still disagree, set boundaries, ask for an update, point out a problem, say no, challenge an idea. You just choose language that leaves the conversation open. For example, instead of that won't work, try I'm not sure that would work because blah blah blah. Instead of you're late, try could you give me an update on this? Instead of you're wrong, say I see it differently. So the next time someone tells you that you sound too direct in English, don't think my English is bad. Your English might be perfectly fine. You may simply need to adjust your workplace communication style to the culture around you. And that's something you can learn. If you're a newcomer working in Canada, tell me this. Have you ever said something at work and thought, yep, that sounded perfectly normal, and then looked at their face like, wait, what did I say? If you had a moment like this, tell me about it in the comments. Let's compare notes because sometimes it's not your English, it's the workplace culture. And if you want to learn what to say and how to say it confidently at work in Canada, follow Speak Strong Canada. I'm Ukrainian living in Halifax and making my new life in Canada. If you're a Canadian who came across my video and you disagree with what I've just said, comment below and disagree in a Canadian way or support my work. Very thankful, very grateful. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.